I would like to thank Steve McInerney for his highly informed and thoughtful remarks on Tunisia. I'd like to invite Qais to respond to anything Stephen said during the question and answer period, if he'd like to comment at all on this. And let me say that as a recipient of a FLAS fellowship myself, and I was in the Fulbright program, I'm constantly amazed how much the U.S. spends on supporting the development of scholars in the region who become activists for democracy in many cases, and scholars from the U.S. to become experts. And then when we sort of get up into the real world, we hear, well, there isn't any money for anything anymore, or just weapons or more. And so this is a real problem. Hopefully, more of us who've been beneficiary of these exchange programs can bond together and talk about the importance of doing more now to promote democracy, not just doing things to promote democracy in 30 years. With that, let me turn to Scott Mastick. Like Stephen McInerney, he's a frequent visitor to Tunisia. Like Stephen McInerney, he's an expert on democracy development and praxis in Tunisia. He's been at IRI for a long time and is now heading its Middle East and North Africa program, and I'm looking forward to what he has to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to apologize for being late today to my co-panelists and to all of you. I was at a memorial service for a dear colleague, work colleague and friend who succumbed after a long battle with cancer, Yoya Bakovic. And I mention her, though, because she was also part of the first team that we sent to Tunisia literally weeks after Ben Ali's departure to do an assessment and try to figure out whether IRI could play a constructive role there. She came back with a very interesting observation to me, which was that, everybody's making such a big deal about all these young people and kids that had a role in the revolution, but they seem really just very disorganized. I know they're really active on Facebook, but they seem really disorganized. And in fact, it seems like it was the labor union there that had such an important role in the actual organization of defiance that ultimately led to the movement getting traction and Ben Ali's eventual departure. She was a student leader in the group that ultimately unseated Milosevic in Serbia. So much so that she was put on a hit list and had to leave Serbia. But I thought, today I think it was an incredibly astute observation, because you see continually this confounding problem Tunisia has about its ability to entice its young population, which demographically is the important part of its population, into the organized political process of transition. And we saw this with respect to the absence of young people participating as voters in the most recent round of elections, in the very palpable sense of frustration you get from young people with respect to the lack of opportunity in the country, and perhaps what was a gap between expectations, real or unreal, with respect to what the transition would deliver in terms of life opportunity for jobs and future quality of life. I want to try to be a little bit positive about Tunisia today, because I think there's some good signs, there's some good data points that suggest we should be a little bit positive about it, irrespective of the considerable challenges, some of which were mentioned today on the security front. As a number of you know, IRI does a lot of public opinion polling in Tunisia that helps our efforts. We're going to be very soon releasing the latest survey that was conducted at the end of May to the start of June. And so that'll be available for everybody to see real soon, but I want to give a little bit of teaser on that today if I can, because it's partly why I have some cautious optimism about at least the opportunities to move the transition in Tunisia forward in a positive way. First, and this is something we've seen, the country is not in a great mood. The public's not in a great mood in Tunisia. They are dissatisfied with the pace of progress, and ultimately that is a reflection of expectations not meeting reality with respect to economic opportunity. And so in a big way, I think the success or failure of this government will hinge on its ability to appear competent with respect to the economy and addressing unemployment. Not solving all the country's economic problems, no government could do that, but appearing competent with respect to addressing the economic challenges. The signs are good, though, with respect to the public's appetite for the very difficult reforms Tunisia has to make. With respect to improving the economy, there is significant support for the notion of make it easier for entrepreneurs to start new businesses in Tunisia. Remove stifling bureaucracy and red tape. Increase the amount of investment in the south and the interior. This is the public talking. They recognize these are the problems that need to be solved. And bring more foreign business to Tunisia. All of these things beat the notion of the government should offer people more jobs. There likewise is considerable support for expanding Tunisia's trade ties in the world, and an intense support for helping foreign companies build new factories in Tunisia. So that's a complete move away from the model that has predominated in Tunisia in the past. More now would rather also start their own business or be part of a small business than they would be part of the government workforce. And that's different. In June 2014, we did a survey and we asked what the government could do to best help people. And the most popular response was, give me a job. The government should give me a job. So, for those reasons, I think there's some reasons to be optimistic. Along with that, there is a recognition about the fact that a major component of solving the current tensions and challenges that exist in Tunisia relates to solving the problem of disparity between the coast and the south and interior. Again, the public recognizes this. More than half of the people we just surveyed in this recent survey say that supporting democratically elected municipal and regional councils and letting them have a greater say in how money is spent in the regions is important. It will lead to more economic growth and more opportunity. And so that makes me shift a little bit here to the importance of the decentralization discussion that's going on in Tunisia right now. It is one of the keys, as we see it at IRI, to addressing broadly the challenges with respect to the Tunisian transition moving forward. And it touches on multiple levels. Why? The coastal interior tension, let's face it, it hasn't been addressed. Not even, it hasn't started to be addressed. It hasn't been addressed. And with respect to development efforts supporting the redress of that problem, there typically is a pretty significant lag time between what we see from development investment, development projects, and a sense that it's actually touching people in a way that makes a valuable difference in their life. So the process, the discussion of decentralization in Tunisia, as much as ultimately the law and the model that's chosen, that's important because it provides opportunity for a consultative approach to solving this very vexing issue. It provides opportunity for more collective action, for interaction between decision makers and local interest groups at the local level, at the regional level, at the national level. It also instills a sense of empowerment beyond the capital In the same survey we just did, people do not have a good impression of their deputies sitting in Tunis. That's not a huge surprise. But I guarantee you people won't be happy about it when we share the information with them on the decision maker side. There's not a sense that in the capital people are doing things to address the problems of ordinary people yet. And so for those reasons, the verdict on the transition and frankly on democracy is a bit ambivalent right now. People haven't yet seen the fruits of this transition in terms of improving their quality of life. And they need to with this government in some way. Otherwise, we may go down a different track that is far less promising. But in a discussion about decentralization, there's opportunity there to involve greater numbers of Tunisians in the transition process and ultimately to give them a sense of empowerment in where the country is going. There's also positive benefits to be realized with respect to the country's vexing security issues when you talk about decentralization. And I want to reference here the comments that were made earlier about radicalization happening in clusters. So the add-on effects of the decentralization discussion have positive benefits with respect to community-level security and improvement and involvement of localized efforts to identify and combat radicalization. Because frankly speaking, I don't know that in the Ministry of Interior right now, there is a full scope, there is a full understanding of the threats posed by radicalization. They don't know who the people are, at least not totally. Last, and from our standpoint, very important at IRI, decentralization is a process that helps cement the democratic foundations that Tunisia has started to build. They have realized significant democratic progress as a result of national elections, as a result of the new environment of discourse that exists in Tunisia. However, a democracy is not made in an election cycle. A democratic culture is what ultimately makes a democracy, supported by institutions that are democratic and give people recourse for their grievances. And so